Welcome back, traders and investors. We have Alan Brochstein here of the 420 Investor to talk about marijuana stocks. And hey, Alan, I did see Maryland approved cannabis over the weekend.
I have to plead guilty to not being up on. I was at a conference in Atlanta with Bob Prechter this weekend, so I didn't
Okay.
really a little behind on that one.
All right. Well, your buddy Rod David, you said he sold everything on Friday. Big bear market fears in the sector. What's
Well,
Rod's take?
yeah, it's funny. So some of the listeners may not know. Rod joined. I think it was in early March, and his service is called the Marijuana Stock Technical Trader. It's pure technical analysis, and this is a sector that really lends itself well to that. And I have been speaking to Rod since I think early January, and the good news is he and I are definitely two different individuals. He's approaching it from pure technical analysis. I'm approaching it with some technical analysis, but obviously a lot deeper on the fundamental side. And I think I was kind of surprised. I don't pay that much attention to Rod specifically because I don't want what he says to interfere with my thinking. We really are different, and I think he takes a very thoughtful approach. What I saw was late in the day Friday, things were breaking down. I want to talk about that later. I mean, there's no doubt. You guys were talking about this earlier. It's not just the marijuana stocks. 3D printing stocks have blown up. You're talking about Netflix rolling over. All these momentum stocks, the internet stocks, really weak. So he's looking at it from a pure trading perspective, and I think he even sent out something this morning. He's not calling for a bear market. It's just he really felt like there's some downside near term based on the charts, and he wanted to wipe the slate clean, I think, and move to the sidelines. He just views the potential for risk. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think that's the way to say it.
And risk is a lot higher here in a lot of the momentum stocks, and obviously the pot stocks have had a lot of momentum, but they've sold off significantly here. Do you think like we're getting close to like a bottom in some of these that have been pulling back here in the last month, or is this kind of proceed with caution type of deal?
Yeah, it's interesting because I put out this thing, the Daily Dab, and that kind of forces me to look at what's going on every single day across the sector. And these are, all the stocks that have, I don't know, $500,000 a day of trading or more. Typically, the largest ones like GW Pharma might trade 15 to 20 million a day. So on the way up, we would see these days where there'd be the overall market there'd be like a bunch of losers and a bunch of winners. We didn't have very many days where everything was going up, even though everything was going up. There was always this rotation going on. The last 2 weeks, for the most part, we had stock prices falling, and sometimes each day, we'd have winners and losers, and a lot of the volume was in the stocks performing better. So kind of a bifurcation on a day-by-day basis, and whatever went up one day would go down the next day, but go down less. So the overall market was going up, and then in the last 2 weeks, more the overall market going down. So I haven't seen anything too big overall, but we have this index. It's almost ready for the public, and it peaked out in March above 800, and I don't know where it is right this minute, but it dropped by month end. I think it was like 760, and so in April my guess is we're below 700. So to go from 159 to 8 and change back to the high sixes is not a huge thing, but obviously it's concerning. So a lot of people ask me what's going on. I told you I was in Atlanta. We had a brunch yesterday. About 30 people from 420 Investors showed up, and we talked about some of the things that are going on. First of all, we've had 4 halts. 3 of them have reopened, down like 80 or 90%. CANN is scheduled to open up later this week. Second, there have been a lot of negative articles, whether they're discussing valuation or the Forbes article, page 90 of the most recent edition by Nathan Vardy on Cannabis is really a brutal article. But we've seen, obviously when something goes up, people start to shine the flashlight a little bit. So that's 2. 3, we talked about this just a minute ago. Momentum across the market seems to be fading. And then 4, I would mention that this is a time of year where people have their taxes that they have to pay. And so last year, the whole market was up a lot. Forget about just the marijuana sector, but if any trader right now across any sector, they're probably hearing back from their accountant, hey, you need to pay some taxes. You had gains last year. I don't know how big that is, but those are 4 kind of things. I don't think that any of them in and of themselves would say that we're in a major bear market. So the flip side is what's going to make this year different from last year. Last year, you may recall, after February's peak, the market fell about 75%. It was brutal, and then it came back at year end. All right, so we have a lot going on. Just in terms of the timeline for this year, what we know, Canada, their new system, which I think is underappreciated, just rolled out. It has a couple of wrinkles in it, but that's going to provide, I think, positive news flow too. Washington is on schedule to go legal in the stores to open in July. All right. 3, Alaska will probably be the third state to legalize in August. And this one's huge. And there was a big meeting in Florida last week, not this weekend. And Florida is going to most likely approve medical marijuana in the November election. And there'll be some other things. So I just say overall the November election, but highlighted by Florida. So that's kind of the news flow that we know. Another thing that was interesting, I don't know if you saw last week, but WebMD did a survey, and it showed that I think it was 67 or 69% of doctors believe that medical marijuana is something that can help patients. And so this goes against, like, the AMA, the American Medical Association, official group of the doctors. They're against medical marijuana. So, just like last August when Sanjay Gupta reversed, this year, I think this is maybe bigger, actually, because all of a sudden you have the doctors seemingly on board. Now, is that going to happen immediately? I don't know. But the more people learn about the medicinal benefits of marijuana, I think the more likely it is that things move forward. And then just one last thing. I know I'm going a long time here.
It's okay.
So this is going to be really cool. I have a preview that I got last night. I was able to share with 420 investors. But Richard Branson of Virgin is about to come out. It'll be publicly released, I think, today or tomorrow. Very bullish statements on the marijuana industry. He can't invest in it because he's playing more of a global political role, trying to affect change, and doesn't want to make it look like he's trying to make money also. But I saw that last night, and the more we get these thought leaders, and there was something last week about George Soros on the sector too, but we're starting to see really big people embrace the sector. And I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, well, so you're not expecting like the kind of rip-roaring rally that we had in 2013 in these stocks then, right? You think that people are going to be, because there were some incredible moves here. Now these stocks have come off the highs. I know you're still optimistic, but it's not going to be the same, right? You think people are going to be much more cautious on this rally, and probably a lot of people stuck on the long side too, huh?
I'm always kind of conservative. I didn't see a four-bagger coming in Q1, but you basically had a four-bagger. And after a four-bagger, I mean, it'd be kind of silly to project. That was one of the things that I came up with from this conference I was at with Elliot Prechter this weekend. I'm sorry, Bob Prechter, Elliot Wave Theory stuff. That, that's the way people think. They're linear thinkers, and they want to say, well, if we were up 4x in Q1, we'll probably be up 4x again in Q2. That's not the way the world works. So I think what's going to happen is there are a lot of really crappy companies, and there's a lot more of them today than there were yesterday. And you're not going to make money in these companies. I think what's going to happen is the overall market, there's more and more people coming into it. So I would say the market cap is going to go up, but we're going to have maybe the winners and losers separate. I think some of the stocks that we follow now could go higher, but I think we're going to have some new entrants. As a matter of fact, I know we are. And so some of these new entrants will attract capital. So the overall, if you just pick a stock at random, is it going to go up 4x like it did, or a lot of these went up 10x or more? That's probably gone for now. So I would say a rotational market where investors get a little bit smarter. This Tweed offering that came out Friday is a good example of there was a lot of excitement for it. I don't think we even talked about it, but Tweed is one of the approved Canadian companies under the new program, and there was a lot of interest in it. And on Friday, you could only buy it in Canada. Today, you'll be able to buy it in the United States. I don't know.
Do you know what the symbol is going to be on that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if it'll be on your system yet, but it's TWMJF. So that'll be TWMJF. That should start trading today.
Yeah,
so
we'll keep an eye on that. Okay.
That's an example of where I think a very legitimate company with a license in Canada. I mean, we could argue about the price, what it should be or shouldn't be. There's 38 million shares, and the Canadian close was around 275. The symbol was TWD, but in Canada. It was really hard for people to trade because you have to have a certain kind of account to be able to do that. So,
Give the
it'll,
symbol one more time there, because I
which
think
one, the Canadian or
the tweed one on the that's going to
Well,
trade
so
on
in
the U.S.
Canada, it's TWD. It's on the Venture Exchange.
Yeah,
The U.S. the OTC listing, which isn't an official listing, but it just facilitates trading, is TW.
TW.
Yep. MJ, like marijuana.
Yeah,
F.
MJF. TWMJF. Okay.
That should start trading today. I saw that on OTC markets.
Okay, Alan. Canada CANN is supposed to start trading this week. What are you looking for in that stock?
It's going to be interesting. Any statistician would have to tell you it's going to be a disaster. I know from talking to people, the least informed people, that they're looking to buy. It's just a question of at what price will we be able to buy. There's been no official news yet, but I think the story is the same. That if you read the SEC statement and the press release that came out, et cetera, it's pretty clear that the action there was related to an individual who's not an executive or a director of the company. So, I don't know what's going to come out news-wise in the next few days, but that would certainly influence the price. But to the extent it's going to drop, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the stock lost its. Anytime a stock is halted like that, it's going to drop. It's just a question of how much. Typically, it seems like it's 80 to 90%. I don't think it's going to drop that much.
Wow,
I don't want to speculate.
Yeah. Whew.
That's what they do.
Okay, we actually had some earnings last week from PHOT and TRTC.
Right.
Both small, penny stocks. So you always got to be extremely careful when investing in those. But what did you glean from their earnings reports?
Yeah, the good news is I don't think investors were really expecting a lot of earnings. Keep in mind that this was for the December quarter. So December in marijuana years, it's kind of like dog years kind of thing. It's like 5 or 6 years ago, December, because really, especially for December, because the Colorado law, I'm talking about Grow Life right now, the Colorado didn't kick in until January 1st. So all this new excitement about like build out in Massachusetts and build out in Canada, none of that was going on in December, and that would impact Grow Life, for instance. Also, if you think about TerraTech specifically, one of their big, what's going to help their revenues this year is their Belvedere facility. They're having an open house on April 16th. I think it's going to excite investors when they go and they see all the technology there. That is the facility, 5-acre facility where they're growing herbs and produce for places like Fairway, for instance, East Coast supermarkets. So back to the earnings thing. In both cases, it's kind of weird. I'm not an accountant, but these accounting things always blow me away. They reported pretty big losses, and then you look at what's going on, and the reason they had losses is their stock price went up. It's something called derivative liability. So in the past, these two companies have financed themselves with convertibles, and when your stock price goes up, it hits your earnings. It's kind of a weird thing. So you strip it all away, and in neither case were the earnings like, okay, you got to buy because of the earnings. But I wonder when the first light bulb was sold, if people wondered what the profit margin was on that first light bulb. And so I really think that's kind of where we are right now. So really, it's the forward-looking calendar, and we're going to have a dinner on April 17th. It's open to the public at Chelsea Piers, and some members from TerraTech will be there, 3 other companies as well. I think when people start to hear the forward stories, they'll realize that the earnings aren't really the key thing right now.
Okay. All right. We've had Alan Brochstein out of the 420 Investor giving his take on marijuana stocks, and cannabis opening this week should be interested. Alan, thanks a lot for coming on, and we'll speak to you next week.
Okay, thanks a lot. Good to talk to you guys.
Thanks, Alan.